Hey everyone, how's it going? Nick here. Today I have a pretty unorthodox video for you guys, mostly because I'm done with school for the semester, and one of the most popular questions that I get asked is how can I get into technology, more specifically software, and learn the skills required to land me a great internship or job offer. I recently signed my offer to work at Tesla this summer as a software engineering intern, and I thought I would give my 2 cents on the process, giving feedback on everything from learning the skills to applying with a resume, and finally the daunting technical interview. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy the video and learn that almost anybody can learn the technical skills required to land a great software position with just the right amount of training. Let's get started. So I know this video might be pretty long and that you might only care about 1 or 2 things that I have to say, so to help you spend your time better, if you want to focus on one thing in particular, I've made some markers in the video to help you out. Click here for part 1 to learn about why software is important and how you can actually go about learning those technical skills necessary to get a great job. Click here for part 2, which talks about applying with a resume and which side projects you should focus on in specific. And finally, click here for part 3 to skip all the way to the part where I discuss the daunting technical interview and how to stay calm and ace it. I'm going to start part 1 in 3, 2, 1. So why is it important to learn software and get into technology? Well, increasingly we're finding ourselves more replaced by machines. Billionaires, scientists, venture capitalists, everyone alike has predicted that within the next 15 or 20 years, we're going to be replaced in most jobs by some sort of technology. And what better way to stay ahead of the curve, the machines that are trying to replace you, and more specifically, the application that millions, if not billions around you are using, than to be the one that are actually building those things. That's my elevator pitch about software engineering, and I hope you stay tuned to learn about how you can learn the skills necessary to perfect them. Almost every single programming language is useful. It has some sort of objective when it comes to software engineering as a whole, and while some are clearly better than others, choose what you like best. The first way I see fit to learn all of these skills is to go back to university, or college in your case, and get a bachelor's degree in computer science, computer engineering, or something of the sort. I'm currently a freshman at UC Berkeley studying electrical engineering and computer science, and I can personally tell you that much of the stuff that I was asked during my technical interview or in any sort of application came from things that I was learning in school, and I wouldn't have been able to answer them if I wasn't doing homework or taking exams or midterms. That being said, the pros of going back to a university are numerous. You have a huge network, and it makes getting a job significantly easier because engineers in the industry want to hire kids and adults that came from their school in the first place. The cons, however, are the huge upfront cost of tuition and the fact that you have to take bloat courses, as I call them, things that aren't even related to technology or the field you want to pursue just to graduate. Things like breadth courses or humanities if you're not interested in them at all. Also, some of the old-fashioned companies might actually throw out your resume in the first place if it doesn't come with a college degree. Many companies still have that stigma about leaving college and trying to learn things on your own, and so they require a degree when looking at applications. But I think many of them have now progressed and don't require that at all, so let's get to a second option which I think is far more prudent. So for those of you where going back to school isn't an option for a variety of reasons, you can consider enrolling in a coding bootcamp. These last a few months, typically comparable to the length of a college semester, where instead you'll be focusing your entire time on specializing in one piece of the software development cycle. You'll be coding for 10 to 12 hours for 2 to 3 months, and these programs are designed to teach you ASAP, build products and software that's actually practical in the industry, and the people you meet and your peers you have are incredibly determined to find positions in the workforce as well. The pros of such programs is obviously that they boast pretty incredible statistics. Some claim to have 6-figure salaries and a 99% hire rate upon graduation, but the bad thing is that many of them aren't certified, so you have to be very choosy when you decide to pick and apply to a specific bootcamp. That being said, like I said before, many companies don't actually hire people without a degree, but I'm sure that if you manage to find a proper bootcamp, spend your time wisely, and really learn the skills necessary, you shouldn't have a problem finding a job, especially at one of the more progressive companies. I should also mention that some of these programs have pretty big upfront tuition costs of anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, and you'll have to drop everything for 3 months, which might not be an option for many of you. So the third and final option is to be self-taught, which is a personal favorite of many people already in the industry. If money is at all an issue, there are a ton of online and free resources for you to delve into the world of software engineering and other programming languages without having to pay a dime. You can also do this while you save up for tuition at a university or a reputable boot camp. One of the awesome things about learning a programming language in the first place is that it goes so far beyond memorizing syntax or useless pieces of information that the pressure is all on you. In many ways, I think being self-taught is actually an advantage because there's no one to look over your shoulder and check that you know your stuff, which in some cases a university or boot camp might not offer you. The downside, however, is that you'll be working at smaller companies for at least the first little while because you won't have a boot camp or university's name backing you. But nonetheless, if you know your stuff, sit down for a few hours a day and make sure you learn the technical skills necessary, you shouldn't have a problem finding a job at all. So now you have the skills. How do you go about applying with your resume and shining through so that any sort of committee or screening recruiter wants to give you the job at their prestigious company? The one piece of advice I have for you is to be unique through side projects. If you want to work for Google, why not try and build an Android application that showcases your ability? And say if you want to work for Amazon, why not create a payment platform where you have a bunch of your friends join on in and you personally show how useful it can be? Some of my personal projects range all the way from creating motion tracking scripts with Python to building large multiplayer games with Java, all the way down to very small stuff like building a Twitter widget that I use on my website personally. All I'm trying to say is that you need to think very deeply about what you like and what your community needs and try and solve those problems. If you have great ideas and build great software, the interviews and jobs will come. That's secondary to almost everything in the process. Getting the job should be your last priority. Building things that you like should be your absolute first. For instance, if your mom has trouble memorizing her grocery list or storing receipts, why don't you build her an application that can take care of all those things for her? People think the process is obvious, and in many ways it is. You show up, you apply, you get an interview, and you get a job. But what people fail to realize is that it's all about having enough faith in yourself to build products and software that you want to build, not what other people tell you to. One of the biggest pieces of non-technical advice that I have for you is to be ridiculously tenacious. Attend career fairs, info sessions, tech meetups, and bring a copy of your resume every place you go. Sit down with your recruiter, talk to them, and don't leave the building until you have their email or some sort of tangible advice that you can go off of. I want to end at least this segment of the video by discussing a tweet that was made by John Carmack, who's now the CTO of Oculus VR. It describes the pursuit of perfection as follows. The ceramics teacher announced on opening day that he was dividing the class into two groups. All those on the left side of the studio, he said, would be graded solely on the quantity of work they produced, all those on the right solely on its quality. His procedure was simple. On the final day of class, he would bring in his bathroom scales and weigh the work of the quantity group. 50 pounds of pots rated an A, 40 pounds a B, and so on. Those being graded on quality, however, needed to produce only one pot, albeit a perfect one, to get an A. Well, came grading time and a curious fact emerged. The works of the highest quality were all produced by the group being graded for quantity. It seems that while the quantity group was busy churning out piles of work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group had sat theorizing about perfection and in the end had little more to show for their efforts than grandiose theories and a pile of dead clay. It's a curious thought at that, and I think it's something that no one should forget when they embark on anything related to software engineering. Last, but certainly not least, is the technical interview. What is it? How does it usually go? How do you prepare for it? And what happens if you get lost or confused during the interview itself? While it's important to mention that there are a ton of prep books out today that are actually written by people who give the interviews, I think it's also very important for you to realize that these interviews aren't meant for you to spurt solutions to questions you already know. They're meant to gauge your critical thinking and see how you can walk through problems at a high-level idea without necessarily knowing what you're talking about. Even if you're lost, you need to be able to piece together some sort of working solution to a problem that many people face on a day-to-day basis. I think you should buy Cracking the Coding interview and do as many problems as you can until you feel personally comfortable. But know that these interviews aren't designed to embarrass you. They're supposed to get you thinking critically and on your feet and try and work out a solution even though you might be totally lost or confused. Some of the questions that I was asked involve building algorithms around playing cards or designing video games or something as simple as a brain teaser. No matter what, I think the most important thing for you is to not panic. If you're lost and confused, don't spiral out of control. Just take a step back, think about what you're being asked, and piece together a solution even though you might be totally confused. I remember that in one of my technical interviews, I had no idea how to answer a question, and I straight up told my recruiter, look, I might not know the answer immediately, but I'm going to use the knowledge that I know and personally have gained throughout school or whatever sort of resources that I have, and I'm going to apply it and try and work something out. And if I can't do it, so be it, but I'm going to try my best. And he really respected the fact that I was able to come up with at least a half-working solution to the problem that he asked. As always, I know I threw a lot of information at you, but I hope that it was useful in your endeavor to get a software engineering job. Hopefully, you realize that with the right training, anybody can learn the technical skills necessary to land a great internship or position at a software company. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.